Hey everyone, welcome back to Faith in Film. In this episode, we'll be looking at the new movie, Send Help. Send Help stars Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams. Dylan O'Brien is the new boss at Rachel McAdams' workplace, and he isn't necessarily the nicest guy. He starts off well enough, greeting everyone, shaking Rachel McAdams' hand, but eventually he just gets weirded out by her. And at first it seems kind of fair because she's a bit of an oddball, but that's just a surface level judgment, as his character Bradley doesn't really try to get to know her. He's more interested in what people can do for him, how he can advance his own interests and use people to get to the top. And she works well, but she kind of makes him feel unsettled. And he lets her know that. Bradley has the power in that office, and everyone knows it, including Linda, who's played by Rachel McAdams. She gets passed up on a big promotion that his father, who used to run the company, had promised her, and she starts to resent him for that. But he needs her to crunch the numbers and answer any questions that investors might have in this upcoming conference that they have all the way in Asia. So he lets her come with them. On the plane, we figure out that she's kind of a survival nut. She likes the show Survivor. In fact, we see her audition tape and we see that she's read a bunch of books about survival, and we see that she can make fire, and she's pretty good with a knife. Anyway, the plane crashes and they all go down. Linda ends up washing up to the beach and walks along and finds Bradley with this huge gash in his leg, so she has to take care of him. But as I said, she's pretty well versed in survival to do that. So they go along and they build shelter and they find water and do all the classic survival things. But eventually things start to get weird between the two of them. There's this power dynamic that, since Linda is the one that's taking care of them and Bradley is the boss at the office, they kind of butt heads. Bradley thinks that he's the boss out here, he can tell her what to do, and she has to listen to him. But she throws it back into his face and says, "We're not in the office anymore. I don't have to listen to you. You're not the boss of me." They figure it out and then they butt heads again and figure it out and butt heads again, and it goes back and forth. And at some points, it can get kind of tedious. But the plot moves along pretty well, and there are some unfortunate things that happen. Let's just leave it at that. Bradley then starts to understand that he really doesn't have that much control, and he relinquishes it. But then Linda picks it up and starts to use it against him, and it's not good for either of them. The last 25 minutes of this movie are very dark and kind of come out of nowhere, so just be prepared for that when you go to watch it. However, there are some really interesting things that are being explored throughout this movie. The movie's very good the entire time. It keeps you on your toes, it keeps you guessing. You don't know where it's going to go, and when you think you know where it's going to go, it switches up and you don't see it coming. It was definitely a pleasant surprise watching it, but good grief, there's a lot to unpack in this movie that we're not going to be able to get into just because of spoilers and everything like that. So I definitely think that you guys should go watch this movie in the theater, but if you don't, it's going to be okay. It will be out on streaming, and you just will miss out on some of the really big things that happen. But that's okay because some of them are kind of unsettling to watch. Definitely check it out. Now on to where I see Jesus in this movie, and there's quite a surprising amount considering it's a psychological survival thriller movie. So back in the office before the plane crashes, Linda is sitting and she's saying, "I am enough just the way I am. I am enough just the way I am," over and over and over again. And while I understand that this phrase that she's saying is to cheer her up in this situation, if we really think about it, none of us are enough. The only way that we're enough is through Jesus, through his sacrifice on the cross. If we don't have him, we're not going to be enough. And that's unfortunate that she's trying to cling to herself to think that she's enough when she just needs Jesus, and then she would be truly enough and complete in him, and it wouldn't matter what anybody says or thinks about her at all. And I also really see Jesus in the control aspect of this film. Bradley doesn't want to give up control. He wants to keep it like this, but he has to give it like this in order to survive. And that's exactly how it is with our lives as well. How many times do we hold on to our lives and think, "I'm going to be able to get through this. I have control over my life. I know what's best," when everything in our world is crashing down. And if we just opened up and gave it over to the Lord, how much more would we be able to see his provision in our lives? And that's the exact same lesson that Bradley unfortunately has to learn the hard way. But he eventually does. And how many of us have to learn that lesson the hard way when we can just accept the Father's love and relinquish control and trust him and humble ourselves to his will and his plan for our lives so that we might be able to live for him better each and every day. And this becomes so evident in Bradley that he even says at one point that he's broken. He's crying. He's pleading with Linda. He's saying, "I'm broken. I need you." And when that happened in the theater, my jaw almost hit the floor. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this movie is about Jesus." I couldn't believe what I was watching. It basically was just sharing the gospel, screaming the gospel, saying, "We are broken. We need Jesus." And the only way for us to do that is to relinquish control to him. He says, "I am broken. I need you. I love you. I am broken. Help me." And the only thing that we can do to save ourselves, to save our lives, to get off of the island of sin and death and shame is to relinquish that control over to Jesus and follow him. And that's what Bradley has to learn. Now, there are still some things in the film that would show that he's struggling with this, that he actually doesn't want to do this. And how many times in our lives do we do that? Do we say, "Lord, I'm relinquishing control over to you. I want you to be able to do it." But then we're like, "No, I know better." And we try to hold on. And if we just had done it in the first place and given it to him in the first place, we would be in a much better place. And the same can be said for Bradley. But overall, this movie is really good. I genuinely think that y'all should see it. Maybe you'll see what I see. Maybe you see something different. However, I must warn you, viewer discretion is advised. This is a rated R movie, so there is some language and some gross parts of this movie. So just be prepared when you go watch them. And like I said, the last 25 and 30 minutes of this film are kind of dark. So just be prepared for that. Overall, yeah, go watch the movie. I think that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this channel. I just want to glorify the name of Jesus and share the gospel with as many people as possible. And by liking this video and subscribing and ringing the notification bell, you guys will be able to help me do that. So please do that. It's free to do and it's just a couple of clicks. So please go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And also drop down in the comments section what's your favorite survival movie or anything else that you want to talk about. I'll be there. If you guys want to watch another video, it should be somewhere on the screen right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Have a good one.